live stream with InfoSec Pat. Today's going to be super fun. We're going to be talking about how to become a SOC analyst, SOC engineer, and all of that good stuff. So I just want to say thank you so much for all the support to everyone that has subscribed. Sorry. And, we're almost at 50,000 subscribers. So, please share this and let's get to there. So today we have Mike Miller. He is an expert and he can talk about whatever he wants to talk about, introduce himself. So let's bring him in and have some fun. What's up, Mike? Can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
Awesome. Yay. How's it going? I'm so grateful to have you tonight. And thank you so much for, coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So tonight we're going to be talking about, so many things, right? How to network on LinkedIn, because, that's how we connected. And if it wasn't for these the ones and zeros, networking, TCP, and all this stuff we were just talking about prior, we wouldn't be here today. So we have to thank the internet for this. So I really am excited to have you and learn more about who you are and, your industry profession and, what brought you to cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. So my start was, well, first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing, man. So thank you for that. So my start, I did not plan on being in IT. I kind of fell in it. Prior to IT, man, I was a garbage man for a day. I tried to be a farmer for a couple of days. That didn't work out. Walked into a desktop support job at a local ISP back in the dial-up internet days, and so that's how I got into IT. They said your job's to answer the phone, and when they ask you a question, you read the question out of the book and you read them the answer. And so that's how I started. And I was like, well, what if what if the question isn't in the book to figure it out? So that's how I got into it. And I worked up through network admin stuff, sysadmin, got into consulting for a while, blue teaming, worked as a SOC analyst for a good while, grew a passion for red team. So I worked as a pen tester, got into GRC, PCI assessments, things like that. I was a QSA for a little while, actually. Founded a firm, a cybersecurity company, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, I got into these vCISO roles. So stepped back from being in the weeds. And so that's kind of sold my organization, stayed on with the company that bought mine. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. It's been a journey that was kind of unplanned, but man, I've had so much fun along the way.
Cool. So, that's awesome. So for right now, you're a vCISO. What is a vCISO for those that don't know what a virtual CISO is?
Yeah. So for those that don't know what a CISO is, a CISO stands for Chief Information Security Officer. So what I do is it's kind of, I guess you could use the word fractional instead of vCISO. So I'm what you call fractional CISO. So what that means is we may have the company that I work for, we have tons of clients. So I may do work for a company. One of our clients, maybe they can afford a fractional CISO 5 hours a week. Maybe they're a smaller SMB organization. So I may help them with, maybe they're working through some compliance. Maybe they're trying to build out a team. Maybe they're trying to put some solutions in place. For a lot of them, it's just helping them build a stronger security posture, just to help them get a little bit better.
Nice. And that's amazing. So you pretty much came up the same way I did, right? I was, help desk, sysadmin, network admin, cloud admin, and then I transitioned to the cybersecurity world. So what made you transfer from sysadmin, network admin into the world of
Absolutely. So I had one of my best friends that I went to elementary school with. He was in cybersecurity, and at the time I didn't even know it was a different world. I'm like, I'm in IT, so I must be in cybersecurity, but it's a different world. It's different language, just different. It's different. And he said to me one time, he goes, "Why don't you think about getting into cyber?" And I'm like, "I'm in IT. I am." And he's like, "No, you're not." So he was a good mentor for me, at least steer. He didn't teach me, but he I had a ton of questions like anybody else does, and he just kind of steered me in the right direction. So that was so my first official cybersecurity job was a SOC analyst.
Okay, so good. I like that because that's what pretty much tonight is all about. Because a lot of your posts on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and you do have a YouTube channel. So if anyone that's viewing, I'm going to put the YouTube channel in this description when it's done. But I'm sure we can throw it up there as well. And so go subscribe. Follow Mike. He's
Thanks.
awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so you post a lot about a lot of tools, a lot of SOC analyst stuff. So I work as a pizza flipper at a pizza parlor, and I came to Mike for advice to become a SOC analyst, right?
Yeah.
So what can I do today to get started, or where would you recommend
Yep.
for this?
Absolutely. So normally when I'm mentoring people, I send them down two paths, but these paths are in parallel, not at different times. So the first path is what I would call the educational path. It's gaining the knowledge that you need to gain. And this can happen through, as we were talking earlier, there's no blueprint for this field. Mm-hmm. Sure, you can go to college if you want to. You can do boot camps, you can do, your own training, build your own labs, YouTube, what I call the University of YouTube. Anything you can do to just be a sponge and absorb as much information as you can. So that's path one, right? It's that getting that hands-on, getting that experience, gaining that knowledge. Path two, at the same time, and this is what people forget about, right? Is I guess what I'll call building your brand, who you are. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn is where most of the cybersecurity community sits. It's where there's over 2 million recruiters sit there. 65 million decision makers just in the United States are on that platform. So what happens is people will come to me either when they're training to get into cyber, or they're 10 years into the field and they lose their job and they're like, Mike, I need help getting a job. And I'll say, well, let me look at your LinkedIn profile. I don't really have one. And I always say, we don't wait until we get into a car crash to call Allstate and get insurance. So at the same time, we need to be building that network, building those connections. So if you're trying to learn to be a SOC analyst or any position in the field, we need to surround ourselves with people that are smarter, that you can learn from role models and things like that. So it's kind of two things. So and I guess to further that first path, it's really breaking down the fundamentals. Yes, you can start learning every tool. You can start learning, all the EDR tools and XDR tools and SIMs and so on. But when it comes down to it, understand networking, some networking basics, understand TCP/IP. What we're talking on right now is using network packets. Everybody here using network packets. Having a good solid understanding of network packets and TCP/IP will really help you. So it's like getting your driver's license. You learn to drive a car, when you learn network packets, but then you can hop in any car and drive it. And so I guess what I'm saying is any SIM, if you understand network packets, if you understand that raw data, then it doesn't matter what piece of software you're using because you understand those fundamentals.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's definitely like an interesting facts, right? Because I think the same way, and that's the advice I always give. And we all, like you were a truck driver, you did your stuff. I totally came up a different route, right? And that's why, like, I never say be like me, right? Be like yourself, because like the way I came up, like I was an electrician. I didn't want to do that anymore. But I, like I said before, like I thought I was too stupid for this. You know what I mean? Like the nerds and stuff like that. I didn't grow up being a nerd. I wasn't a nerd, So I'm like, only, those kind of kids with the glasses, your typical looking kid, those are the computer kids, So, and then, I stumbled upon it, and I was a bench tech, swapping out memory. And all of a sudden, they stuck me in the field, setting up my first domain controller, doing DC promo in 2003 server.
I remember those days.
Yeah. Now it's ADDS, it's role based, but now it's Azure or what is it? Intra.
Yeah.
Whatever it is now. It's like, it'll still always be Azure AD for me.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
what are they going to do next? Change Active Directory domain services and change that word? And so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anything to keep us on the edge. Yeah.
Exactly. So like, so understanding, going back to what you were saying, the packets and understanding those fundamentals, because now as whatever, a defender or an offender, like we'll stick on the defensive side because this is about SOC analysts and
Yeah.
defenders tonight, blue teaming. Like now if a packet traverses through your IDS or IPS or whatever, through Firepower, Snort, whatever tools that we're talking about, now the data that's ingested, if we can't understand, if we do TCP dump and we don't understand that data that's really going on, we're going to be so lost. That's
Absolutely.
why, like, I always recommend people like doing their Network Plus, because you could go get your CCNA or whatever, but the Network Plus makes you understand networking, right?
Yes.
It's not Cisco, it's not Juniper, it's not Palo Alto, Checkpoint, etc. It's pretty much networking, so you understand, the wire at the wire level, at the OSM
Absolutely. You need to
layer
know what an IP address is. You need to know what a gateway is. You need to know what a subnet is. You need to know those things because I've mentored people. This is the crazy part, right? So I've mentored people that have a 4-year degree in cybersecurity, and I ask them what an IP address is, and they can't tell me. And I feel bad for them, because they spent 4 years or however many years going through this training, and much of it's been theory, right? And so those are just things that you just got, you have to understand. You have to understand what ports are and services and what they're doing, and you should know some of the most. You should know what port 53 is, and you should know that. You should know that port 23 probably shouldn't be used anymore. Just things like that should just come to you, pretty quick. And so those are just those fundamentals that you're talking about that you just really need to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about 4-year degrees, right? So we can transition to some of the training now. So now everyone's, this is probably a big question you get, is a big question I get, like certifications versus degrees. I have both. I have a master's degree and I have quite a few certifications under my belt.
Awesome.
And I'm going to thank you. But the only reason why I went to school is because I had a scholarship. If I didn't get it paid for, I would never step a day into university. Right. So that's just keeping it a buck, being 100% honest.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get a scholarship. I was not paying for that.
Yeah.
So I always say the same thing. That's my advice. If you have a full ride that shit out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ride it out. Like if you're 20 years old, 21 years old, you got a little scholarship riding out for 4 years, ride it out, if you get a free ride. But if you have to go take a loan out, pay Uncle Sam and all that, go understand what you're going to do. You can go, I don't recommend boot camps, but you can go to like Code Academy if you want to learn computer science and coding, try Hack Me, Hack the Box. There's so many, like you said, University of YouTube. So what would be your recommendation, like certifications versus degrees?
Yeah, degree. Yeah, absolutely. So, we're all different, and we're all in different phases of our life, and even financially, we're all in different places. So it's a personal decision. What I will tell you is, depending on the person, if you have the ability, so it's a discipline, you have to have the ability to focus on something and to be able to dive in and just learn as much as you can. So I'm not going to beat degrees up, but I've seen so many. I have friends that have gone through degrees, and I had one buddy who's one of my best friends getting a degree, and to finish up, he's taking badminton courses, and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense to me. You're going for a career in IT, but you're taking badminton courses, and again, not to beat that up, but something concentrated, and even what you said about boot camps can be good. But often people misunderstand boot camps. So many people think I'm going to go to this, 4-month boot camp, and when I get out, I'm going to be a pro, and so it's just like college and boot camps are kind of the same thing, where what a boot camp does is you're going to learn a tiny, tiny piece about so many different things. You're going to get a broad base. And those boot camps are going to be just enough for you to figure out what you like and what you don't like. You're not going to come out of it being a pen tester. You're not going to come out of it being a SOC analyst. What you are going to come out of it with is an understanding of what each of those sectors are. And you're going to start memorizing what some of the names of the tools are, and you're going to get to touch and play with them a little bit, but you're not going to have a lot of hands-on. So I think it's whatever works best for you. So for me, I only learn, I'm a slow learner, right? I only learn like I have to do it. You can show me 5 times, but if I'm not doing it, I can't learn. So theory does nothing for me, right? So I have to have that hands-on. So in my opinion, it really just depends on the person. And if you need that 4-year degree and you need that structured training, nothing against it, you're going to spend a lot of money to do that. This is one of those fields where you don't have to have it. So
exactly. Fair enough. And I like that answer. That's definitely a good answer. And now we'll transition to some certifications, right?
Yeah.
So that was the degree. So certifications, like, we titled this thing as a SOC engineer, but whatever, blue team, anything on the defensive side. We can touch up on pen testing and red teaming as well. But I think, I'll give my perspective on certifications. And I think certifications as well is similar to a degree in the sense of you're starting something and you're finishing something and you show discipline.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I said just before this chat, and I'll say it again, I have a buddy that did his CCNP in route switch. Now it's called enterprise. And he went into an MDF, into a server room, and he took down the whole network because he didn't know what he was doing. But he had a CCNP.
But he had that cert. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much he was just cramming in an exam, and he was able to pass, memorizing, but not really getting into EVE-NG. Because when you get to the CCNP level, if you have CCNA level, you can use like Cisco Packet Tracer from Cisco, and it's pretty cool. But if you get to the NPIE level, you're going to use like EVE-NG or GNS3 or CLM. I think it's Cisco Live Manager, whatever they use now for like all the emulated stuff. So he whacked his whole network. So, that's where, the certifications are, sometimes a little wonky. Now transitioning to what I was saying, like the blue team, red team stuff, like now I think folks and organizations and vendors are noticing that, now this is what I love about the pen testing and the cyber world. Some of the CompTIA stuff like the CYSA plus, Security plus is still multiple choice, but a lot of, I think even like the blue level 1 cert for blue team, I think you're actually in a sim and you're actually doing something, you're analyzing data.
It's a big difference. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if anyone knows that's watching this. I haven't taken that exam. I haven't, but I think that's from what I've recognized.
Yeah.
And also from the red teaming side, right? You have the PMPT from TCM, you have the OSCP, you have the EJPT, you have CRTP, whatever, and even like the hack the box certs and the red team, what is it?
It goes on and on and on. Yeah, absolutely. I in my opinion, I think that, so, certs can be a good and a bad thing. So in my opinion, certifications should be a byproduct of knowledge. It's not the certification that you're seeking. It's the knowledge that you're seeking with, okay, here's your stamp that you've gone through that process. So, they should always be a byproduct of that knowledge. And I'll use an example. Years and years ago, when I didn't have the money, and I told you this before the call, I maxed out a credit card, taken 3 SANS courses. Back then, they were $4,000 or $5,000 a piece. I didn't care about the certifications. In fact, at the time, I didn't have the money to actually do the certifications. I wanted the knowledge. And these are different level pen test courses. I didn't care about certifications. I never got the certifications. I wanted that knowledge. I didn't care about something hanging on the wall. So I think people should always seek the knowledge. Absolutely. Yes, the certifications give you, like you said, it shows that you have discipline to learn. But the certification doesn't really mean that you have the knowledge for the most part.
Yeah. And I like that because I would get the question a lot, like, because I have quite a few certifications. Like the ones behind me, a couple of my cybersecurity ones, but like, I have from vendors like Cisco, Palo Alto, Microsoft,
Absolutely.
VMware, you know, and I would get the question, why do you have so many? I used to get that question when I would go on interviews, like,
Yeah.
and the reason why I've taken certifications is similar to a degree, right? Like you're not going to go to 10 years of med school and not be, not go take your board exam, right?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
not going to go to law school without taking your bar exam. So that's the way, like, it was never for more money. I never took any certifications for more money. I took it because I learned a bundle of knowledge, like, say, for example, VMware. And I'm going to do an announcement. Remind me, Devin, just put VMware, and I have an announcement about VMware. But so like the VCP DVA, right? Or DCV, data center virtualization. So I was doing that. I was learning about vCenter, learning about DRS and all this stuff. It's like, man, I'm touching VMware all day, every day.
Yeah.
Why not go take your install, manage, and config, ICM?
Have something to show for it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I'm learning all this stuff. Like, why not go to get certified? But it's not like I'm like, you can see on my wall. Like,
But
I don't
the difference is you had the experience and thought, you know what, I'm going to go just get this certification so I have it. Instead of, it wasn't you saying, I want to get into the field or I want to go get the certification so it says that I know all of this stuff, because you already knew this stuff prior. Again, your certification is a byproduct of your knowledge. So absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's definitely certifications that I took, like the MCITP and MCSAs, MCSE, the Azure, like I did like the Azure expert.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I barely work in Azure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I did it because at the point that it was needed for what I was doing.
Yeah.
So
back in the day, I'm going to show my age here, but back in the day, I did my NT4 MCSE via big books, just reading out of these big books. There was no on-demand class for that back then.
Yeah.
Then I did my Windows 2000 MCSE, which I hear they don't expire. So technically, I'm still an MCSE.
Yeah, me too. I have my MCSE for 2003 server.
Yeah.
And I think those exams were probably a bunch of the hardest exams I ever taken.
Absolutely.
Way harder than Cisco.
Yeah. They were crazy. I remember you had your core books and then your elective. I forget now. It's been so long.
Yeah. So you have you have your 70-710, 711, at least for the MCSE for 2003. I think 710, 711, 712. And I think 714 and 16, because I think it's like
you have that memorized.
You take 5 exams for your MCSA, Microsoft Certified System Administrator. Then you take 2 more, but back then you can do Exchange 2003.
Yeah.
So you can get MCSE messaging. So there was a couple of tracks. Yeah, because I was and I'm an MCT as well, so I do Microsoft Certified Trainer. Yeah. So I did a lot of Microsoft stuff. That's to my heart. I don't really say this a lot, but I will say this today. So it's my bread and butter in my heart. Like Microsoft has a special part in my life because it's like,
absolutely,
I really, really enjoyed Microsoft's products. I learned it really well. Like Active Directory, I can say I'm an SME or SME or in AD, not just adding. And this is what goes back to Martin, if you ever see this, what goes back what we were talking about before, that guy Martin on that interview, because he was not just asking, Active Directory, what is Active Directory? Oh, you go add a user, an object. Right. No, like we're talking about multiple domains, forest, trust. If one breaks, how can you troubleshoot? More on the architectural level. And that's when I went for like my MCM, Microsoft Certified Master. Yeah. It's equivalent to like your CCIE in Cisco, your MCM. But yeah, so like certifications like that, I think will validate, your skills. But like I think please don't go out there and just try to be a paper cert, and because when you get tested, that's going to show, And even if you bullshit your way into the organization, if God forbid something breaks or whatever field you're in, when you have shit hits the fan, it's going to show, you know what I mean? It'll light you up like a Christmas tree. So,
yep. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
Cool. So certifications, since we're on that certification, so like what certification do you recommend your folks that, that are getting into the field? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, if you're getting into the field, I mean, I think your Network Plus, like you talked about, the CYSA, I think is a good cert. Sec Plus obviously is going to be they're good base certs. I haven't taken it, but the Google cybersecurity certification course,
Mm-hmm.
it's got a good amount of material in it from what I've seen. Again, I haven't taken it, but all of those are just going to give you a little bit more education, right? Again, they're good certs. That gives you some street credit, but studying for those and preparing for those, you're bound to absorb some knowledge. So I think those are some good places to start.
Cool. Yeah. And so you do have some pen testing experience. So, we'll transition there for a second about the certifications.
Yeah.
So, they have the Pen Test Plus from CompTIA. They have,
Right.
I think that's maybe the CEH. I do have the CEH as well. I never took the Pen Test Plus, but you have CEH. I'm talking about more of the written ones, right? Not CEH Master. CEH, Pen Test Plus. I think that's the only one.
Yeah, I think those are the two that I can think of. And then, if you really want to dive in and prove yourself, you can do the OSCP.
Mhm.
But that is a hard certification to get, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I would say right now, I think it has probably some of the most street credit, that certification.
Yeah. And I have my, yeah, I guess when the OSCP changed, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when they added Active Directory. But prior to that, like it was very, in my opinion, very CTF-y, right? So,
Oh yeah.
and I didn't like that because, like, for example, buffer overflow, there's no more buffer overflows on it, like
Right.
loading up immunity server and just doing buffer overflows and memory dumps and all that stuff.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you do that on a pen test, never.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when, like, when you're doing a real assessment, and that's what, like, maybe we can transition to like CTFs, right? And that's why I love to get like John on the channel because he's CTF master, John
Yeah.
Hammond.
Oh,
And
he's fantastic. Yeah.
so, what are your takes on? I'll give my opinion. I'm not a big fan of CTFs just because, like, I never played video games, so I think it's very, very gamified.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going down rabbit holes. You're like trying to, which I'd like to figure things out. That's not the thing, but it's like very CTF-y. I mean, CTFs are CTF-y, but gamified.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It is very gamified. If anything else, it just gives you good practice with the tools. It gives you some hands-on. For myself, how I learned was, so when I was learning, we didn't have Try Hack Me, or maybe I wasn't aware of it at the time. So man, I was setting up VMs, and I had a room full of computers and so on. I was downloading Metasploitable and playing with that and learning Metasploit and playing with Nmap, playing with scanners, playing with OpenVAS, playing with the tools in Kali. Bought myself an alpha antenna and was testing wireless networks and using AirCrack and things like that. So for me, again, it was just getting that hands on. And you spend some time in Metasploit playing with some of the plugins and stuff like that, and and Nmap, learning the syntax, and just those different things. Studying vulnerabilities. What makes a vulnerability a vulnerability? Understanding them and then trying to exploit them. That is going to give you, in my opinion, better skills and knowledge than CTFs aren't bad, but like you said, they're kind of gamified. It's just practice makes perfect, right? But anything you can get your hands on. I remember when I bought my first alpha antenna and how cool that thing was, and I toted that thing around a backpack everywhere I went just because I thought it was cool, because I had this antenna. But it's just playing with those tools.
Yeah. And I think the whole thing about setting up your lab, this goes back to like when I was doing CCNP, CCIE training.
Yeah.
Like, I love to touch things. Like, I have a rack. I never really used GNS3 or EVE-NG. I liked physical routers, physical switches, physical firewalls, because I like to hear click, even though it was 900 degrees in this room. Like, it was so much better. So like going back to what you were saying about Metasploitable 2, Metasploitable 2 and 3. 2 is a
Yeah.
Linux based, 3 is the Windows based 2008 server. If
Yeah.
you guys are aware, you can download it from GitHub.
I haven't played with that one, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. Metasploitable 3 is more, it's more realistic because it has vulnerabilities that are in like Windows environments.
Right.
And then you can use, I think it's called Broken AD. I think it's AD, vulnerable AD. It's a GitHub. You can actually install that on your domain controller.
Yeah.
It's like, I think, a PowerShell script, and it adds all your Active Directory to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So, to make it a little easier to do like pass the hash, impersonations and all these little attacks that you do on an internal assessment.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying about the Metasploitable, I think that's so much better, right? Setting up your own labs, because not only you're going to learn about networking, right? You have to create NAT networks or maybe host-only networks, routes. You're going to have to let stuff communicate, because I was getting this all the time. Like by default in VirtualBox, you are going to have an IP address of 10.0.2.15.
Yep.
That's your default NAT IP address. So if you have default NAT on DC in VM1 and VM2, you're going to have an IP conflict.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So
those are the things that teach you. So like Try Hack Me is great because it just loads up all those labs. But just like you said, setting up those labs, learning VirtualBox or learning VMware, learning those different things helps you understand networking and NATing and bridging and all of that different stuff that you wouldn't really understand otherwise.
Exactly. And I think those are super important. And that's why I always recommend having your own lab at home. First of all, it's free 99. Yeah. And then you can go to Hack the Box and Try Hack Me's and really understand, what the networking is doing when you connect to that OpenVPN.
Yes.
What is point-to-point connections? What is site-to-site VPN? What is that OpenVPN doing when you're downloading that file and you're connecting?
Yep.
So I think, setting up your own labs and I'll be, I've been asked to set up pen testing labs. I do have one playlist on my channel about like ethical hacking labs, but it's more towards Metasploitable 2 and exploiting all the services, which is, like you said, it's more learning. It's not realistic, right?
Absolutely.
How often you're going to see DFTP, version 2.3.4 open,
And then the other thing too that, and I'm still in this business, right? So I'm not really doing pen testing anymore, but a company I work for, obviously we do. And pen testing has changed because 10 years ago, pen testing was, IPs and ports and so on. And most of the pen testing engagements that we get at this point, they're web applications, So having an understanding of those tools, Burp, download Burp. Portswigger has some of the best training out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just learning how to use the tools, within that, and understanding code and things like that, understanding OWASP and the OWASP testing guidelines and things like that. That's a whole other world than just firing up Nmap and Metasploit.
Yeah, and like I made that joke before. I don't even know the OS top 10. I think I do. Hopefully,
I used to.
I used to know that, but. Like going back to what you were saying, like with Burp, you have intruders, you have man-in-the-middle proxies, you have forwarders, you have all these little things.
Fuzzers and all that. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I remember using Foxy Proxy on,
Me too. Yeah.
And not remember, I still do.
It's the only time I use Firefox. It's the only time.
Yeah. And then like when I did that for the first time and used Weaponizer, whatever the hell that thing is called, it's in my Kali machine.
Yeah.
And so like I remember like looking at these tools, and when I would hit like the first thing about get and post requests and all that stuff, and don't get me wrong, I'm not no web app guy. I don't claim to be. I can tinker. I did my share of like hacking some web apps and like WordPress and outdated themes and plugins that were outdated, or just like spraying wp-login.php. Stuff like that. But I'm no web app guy, like by any means. I don't I don't.
if for people that are trying to get into that side of it, learning what SQL injection is, cross-site scripting, cross-site Chris forgery, all of those different things help. And I'll tell you, and I say this too, it's just like football. If you're going to be a SOC analyst, the better you understand the offense, the better defense you're going to have. So just because you work in defense doesn't mean you shouldn't fire up Metasploit and fire up Burp and learn some of those tools, because guess what? Those are the tools that you're going to be defending against, at some point.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to get into about the lab, right? Like setting up OSSIM, or like, I wouldn't say Splunk, because if you're just learning, I don't even know Splunk, right? I'm shit with Splunk. That thing is way overwhelming for my head. But like, I would, I think, like you said, OpenVAS, right? For vulnerability assessments, or even like, Nessus or Tainable or whatever.
Absolutely. Yep.
Throw that on the Windows box, start scanning around your network at home, and just see, maybe, I found out, we changed it so I can say it now. Like at my uncle's house, he bought a router, and I'm not sure if I think it's on the CIS, or CSI, whatever. His firmware that came with his router had a remote code execution within it. So, because he kept on saying, I'm getting booted offline and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, maybe someone's messing with you, or putting a signal interceptor or like something like that at your house. And I'm like, I don't think so. So I went over to his house, and there was nothing like that, because I bought a little rinky-dink router, I configured it, and it was working fine. And so knowing how to even troubleshoot that, but like going back to, like you said, the fundamentals and understanding those concepts are critical. And
I think two things at a high level that for any position in cyber, and these are the things that are overlooked, right? First is just communication, because we as geeks, we're not always the best communicators. So many times I found myself in the beginning of my career, wanting to talk tech to the wrong people, to the stakeholders or the board or what have you, and that doesn't work. I've been in positions where, going through PCI audits, and I had to explain to the stakeholders of the board why they need to spend $10 million to replace every point of sale system in every store that they have. If I go in there and I start talking to them about encryption and SSL and TLS, like, that means nothing to them. So you have to be able to talk to them about business risk. You have to learn to understand the risk at each business is different than it might have been at the last business you were working at. So you need to learn how to communicate those things well in a non-technical manner. So a two skill, like I said, I'm an expert in nothing, right? But I like to say that I have two skills that I'm pretty good at. One, just a problem solver. And all of us have been solving problems since the day we've been born, trying to put a square peg in a round hole. This problem solving. So problem solving and communication. If you can master those two skills and not panic when everybody else is, communicate effectively, figure out the problem, doesn't matter what career you're in or what sector in cybersecurity, you're going to go a long ways.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that. And communicating and problem solving is obviously, I think, numero uno. But so we'll have like another couple minutes and see if there's any questions. But like, so now the last thing I want to get into is networking, right? Because like I said in the beginning, I don't know if it was beginning of this chat or offline. Like we got in contact on LinkedIn and Twitter and the whole shebang. Thank you for doing whatever you did today on Twitter. I got like 50, 60 new followers.
Did you really? Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was like,
absolutely, buddy.
Yeah. Like I was like at, 2,900 something. And I was like, oh shit, 3K. I don't know how the fuck that happened. But then I saw that you put that thing for our conversation this morning. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And so networking, see that, like, cool thing happen. And so how important do you think it is to get a job? What is the importance of networking?
Yeah, I use an analogy for this one. So let's just say you've put all your work in, you've got, 3 certifications, you've got the hands-on labs, your stuff. So you at this point are that red shiny Corvette, right?
Mhm.
That with all the accessories. But so your job's to sell that Corvette
Mhm.
because that Corvette's for sale. You've put a lot of work into it, but you can't sell that Corvette if it's sitting on the back of the car lot covered with a tarp. No one's going to see it. So the equivalent of having all of those certifications, but not having a network and not having a community, not having a personal brand on LinkedIn is, in my opinion, just like trying to sell a Corvette without even putting it on a car lot. You absolutely have to be able to sell, whether we like it or not. Like I said, we're all salespeople. We have to be able to sell the wisdom that we're acquiring. So you have to put your car on a lot. You have to build those connections.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a good analogy. I like that. I like that a lot. Like, because, fun fact about me, before I had my YouTube channel in 2020,
Yeah.
I like to be anonymous. No one knew about me. I didn't even use my government name anywhere.
Yeah.
Like on LinkedIn, Facebook, I was Pasquale
Yeah.
Maroni. And Maroni is from my mom's last name, and Pasquale is my name in Italian.
Yeah.
So like I use that name everywhere. Like, because I don't want people to know, Google me or find out where I
Yeah.
lived or some crazy shit like that. So, and then like getting into like networking, like I got to meet so many awesome people.
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
like,
man. Yeah.
and if it wasn't for that, like it was more because I always felt different. What do I
Yes.
mean? Like I told you this morning, I'm not a nerd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of this camera, I'm a different kind of person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
I'm not a different person, but like I have my quirks. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if I'm walking down the street, you're not gonna think I'm an IT. You know?
Right. Right.
So I was always like, I don't fit in with these kids. You know what I mean? I'm not like them. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
keep my shit on the DL and
Yep.
just keep my
Totally get.
keep in my
Yeah.
own lane. And
Yeah.
then
I
all of a
totally
sudden,
get that.
I started, getting, I started that YouTube channel, I started my YouTube channel, started like, getting a couple followers or subscribers. And then I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, okay, like, then I realized I'm an idiot, right? Because if you watch some of my older shit, like I had my certifications in the back wall, and like my name is on the
Like
cert,
your
right?
number. Yeah.
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 So I'm like, okay, I guess. And one person I remember, someone's like, is your name this or that? And it was
Yeah.
actually a recruiter because obviously I
Yeah.
sent them my resume and then like, oh, I can't find you on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm like, you don't have to. This is my information. You don't need to find me on
Yeah.
anything. But then it's like, down that rabbit hole of networking. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to start using my government name on the internet. But yeah, so
It's crazy. It's crazy where it's come because I always say when I was a kid, my way of finding a job was riding my bicycle to the local diner and filling out an application.
yep.
Now it's using social media, and it's weird because I don't even in my mind I can't think of LinkedIn as social media. I just think of it as a large networking event. And what I tell people is, if you go to a local networking event in your town just to network and get to know people, the last thing you should do is stand against the wall and be a wallflower. You don't go
Mhm.
to a networking event to be a wallflower. It's not going to do you any good. So in that case, if you're worried at all about your career, you want to have a successful career, LinkedIn's your networking event. Don't stand against the wall. I always say run to the center of the room and shake hands, make sure people know your name.
Exactly. And this is my last thing, and then I'll take some questions, or we can just shoot the stuff for a couple more minutes. And so how do you feel when people reach out to you? Because we were talking about this morning too, right? I like to put this out there. I'm pretty, maybe out and about, I've heard this. I don't think so because I'm just me. I
Yeah.
seem intimidating, right? Like
Cool.
I talk intimidating. I don't know, whatever, but I'm not. I'm like, obviously the person, the moderator, like everyone, like I'm always open doors and give my heart on my sleeve or whatever. But like, how do you feel when people just say they write you on DM on LinkedIn or whatever and say, hey, Mike, I see what you're doing. Help me get a job.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that shit. Don't ask me like that. Like,
Yeah. So
get to
it's
know
tough.
me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the wrong approach just to, hey, help me do this. It's about creating relationships,
Hmm.
I always say give more to the cybersecurity community than you expect to get back, and
Hmm.
you'll get back more than you ever gave. So here's the thing, I don't mind people reaching out to me. I have it every day. I literally, no joke, I get hundreds of messages every single day. Do I get to all of them? No. What I do tell people is your message is going to get buried pretty quick. So if you really want to reach me, keep bringing that message to the top of my inbox. There's a secret for you. Um, but the ones I respond to are the ones that are kind. Hey Mike, thanks for what you're doing, and love your content, whatever it is, or don't like your content, whatever it is. Be honest. But you know, when you're reaching out to people, just don't hit them with, hey, you need to do this for me, because it's the
Exactly.
wrong approach. It's about relationships. You know what? If you want them to help you out, before you ever reach out to them, engage with their content for a couple of weeks. Bring something to their table,
Hmm.
because give them a reason to recognize your name. If I want something from somebody, or I want to ask a favor, I'm not just going to go ask. I'm going to maybe mention you in a post, or maybe engage with your content or so on. I'm going to build that rapport with you.
Hmm.
Then when I reach out, oh yeah, hey, yeah, I know that guy. I know Mike. He's been doing some pretty cool stuff on my timeline. So that, in my opinion, that's how you should approach it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same way. Like, engage, write on a comment or whatever. Just like,
Yeah,
instead of just, willy nilly send me a DM saying, hey, like,
absolutely.
I just ignore them anyway. Like,
Yeah,
you're welcome to
those
my
ones,
mail.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Like, if
yeah.
if you're just looking for a handout, that's not me. You know what I
You know what
mean?
I get? I get everyone sending me their resumes, and hey, look at my resume and let me know how it is. I'm like, I get probably 20 a day, and I don't have time to review 20 resumes a day. But you know what? If you build a rapport with me and you build a relationship with me, no one owes me anything. But if you just establish yourself as a good connection, then absolutely, I would be happy to take a look at your resume. But
Exactly.
but I don't have time for 20 or 30 resumes a day to look at.
Exactly. And that's why, and this will close it out, right? And this is why this is actually a cool way to transition. Like, you have a little coaching, I don't
Yep.
know, career, I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to get help with their resume, like, or one-on-one coaching, I guess,
Yeah.
coaching,
Yep.
like, that's what you do, right? Like, you advise people on
Yeah, I
their,
love it. Yeah. I always say I want to make a mark in this world by helping someone else fulfill their dream. And I'm an expert at nothing, but I've been in this field for 25 plus years. I love what I do. And so, yeah, I mentor. I help make what could be a really fuzzy, unclear picture, and I make a clear picture for you and give you some direction on both, technical training and building that brand, making yourself discoverable by recruiters on LinkedIn. So PM me, go to my website, you can book a one-on-one call if you want to. I have these books as well that you can grab. So anything like that. Best thing to do is just reach out to me or book a call on the site, and I can definitely help people out.
cool. Awesome. So we have about, 10 minutes, because I want to be kind of your time. If there's any questions, we'll hang out. If we don't get any questions within like 2 or 3 minutes, we'll just, call it a night.
We might have put everybody to sleep. Who knows?
Exactly.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's about 16, 17 people. So yeah, thank you. Like, Devin just, hey, Pen Mike, thank you. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. I saw Kevin A's here. I never try to pronounce his last name. I just call him Kevin A.
Yeah.
So thanks, Kevin, for
I, uh,
Apollinario.
yeah,
Apollinario.
he's Mike
Yeah.
Flavisach, he's calling the sock hand. Yeah. Kev Tech. Yeah, he's actually in Chicago right now. I think he's going to a Chicago B-side.
He's a
So
good
enjoy
guy.
yourself, dude. Like, have fun out there. Make sure you buy me a present.
Bring me some swag back, Kevin. Bring me something. Give me my address.
Yeah. Cool. So who else is on there? That's a huge barrier. I'm the same way. Yeah. So yeah, I was never into giving my real information out. And it was a barrier, right? It was a barrier for me, because if I did that, if I did that earlier on, probably I could have been in a different situation now. Maybe I could have grew my network a lot
Who knows?
faster.
Yeah.
But I think everything happens for a reason. Everyone has their time to shine. And so I'll mention something that I'm working on. I think that was it, right? So I had a friend reach out to me, and he's in the VMware world, right? And because the only reason why I brought up my VCP is because I'm probably going to do some training on the VCP 8, version 8 of the VMware.
Yep.
And now I see, get jacked, baby. Yeah, but so get jacked, that's what it's all about. You have to get jacked. And so I was like, hey man, like just exactly how I started. Like we were doing the PC NSE, me and a group of friends were doing the Palo Alto, and that's my first video was like on Palo Alto. So I'm going to be doing I started writing some stuff out, probably about 20 or 30 videos on VMware, getting it set up, getting it configured, the whole shebang, DRS, vMotion, bringing back, and this is all going to be for free on my YouTube channel. All I ask is for subscribe, share it. And it's not going to be cyber related, but I think a lot of my stuff,
very cool, man.
I come from that networking system background, and I always have that in my core, and it's enjoyable. Obviously, the only caveat, and I'm probably gonna have to, I know Devin's probably gonna kill me. I've been saying this for a month. I built a new machine, and I'm definitely gonna get it on this weekend. I can run whatever I'm running in that VMware environment. Now this is gonna really push me to get it transferred.
Yeah.
So obviously for a vCenter server, and if you guys are familiar with VMware, the minimum is probably going to be 16 gigs to run an ESXi server, and you need 2 ESXi servers in a cluster in vCenter in order to really follow along. I started writing some stuff out. Once I started making the slides, I'll show you guys what the requirements are. So I would think maybe 64 gigs would be ideal for your machine, because 16 each host, and you have to have a domain controller because you have whatever. But we'll get into all of that stuff. And I was thinking, doing it on Udemy and putting out for sale, but I'm like, what? I don't need money. I don't care about the money. You know what I mean? I'd rather just do it for free. And so that's
way to pay it forward, man. Yeah. That's awesome. You got a ton of knowledge just from talking, from watching your stuff. I've been watching you for a while and talking prior to this. You got a ton of knowledge to share, man, and you're helping a ton of people.
Yeah, I thank you. And so that's pretty much the announcement. And I think I made another announcement in one of my Try Hack Me videos, and I will be participating in the Advert of Cyber 2023. So that's another cool thing that I'm super, super grateful from Try Hack Me that they put me in this year's Advert of Cyber. So that should be fun.
That's awesome.
And more to come on that whenever they give me more info. And and that's all I got. So any last words for you, Mike? Thank you. Much love for having your time with me tonight. And
absolutely. Again, I appreciate you having me on. I've been watching you for a while. I love what you're doing. And for those that are watching now or tuning in later, this is a great field. Make your own path. Don't let anyone else tell you the direction you have to go. I was a C- D+ student in high school. My guidance counselor told me I pretty much had no future. And so don't let anyone else determine your path or your future. So
sweet. Much love. Bless. So thank you so much. If you're watching this after the fact, if you catch this after, leave a comment in the description below, whatever questions you have for me or Mike, or hit Mike up on LinkedIn. Absolutely. And follow his shit on Twitter or X, whatever. Instagram, I just gave you a follow on Instagram.
Awesome.
And obviously your YouTube channel. So help them grow that platform as well. And awesome, Mike. Thank you so much. Much love, and talk to you soon, brother.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
Yep.